Today we are tackling what is probably the most famous Grade 3 whitewater rafting in the whole of New Zealand.
The Tongariro River.
This morning we are joining the team from Rafting New Zealand for one of the best whitewater rafting in New Zealand. It's the Tongariro River.
After taking their shuttle from Taupo to Turangi, we arrive at the Turangi Adventure Centre where we're meeting our guides and getting our gear ready to hit the water.
First up, we need to change ourselves into some professional whitewater rafters. So we are getting wetsuits, fleeces, life jackets, splash jacket, helmets, paddles, and then we're hopping on the shuttle to the departure point of our trip. There we're going to be getting a quick safety briefing and the team is going to check each and every single life jacket off the trip just to make sure that we are safely strapped and we're not going to be drowning during the tour. After that, we are carrying our rafts to the bottom of the creek where we're actually going to be hopping into the river. Whitewater rafting is all about teamwork and team bonding, so our team today is Robin and Laura, yours truly on the front seat. Then behind us we have Leo and Ali, which is a couple from Taupo and some really good friend of ours. And then behind them there is a bunch of students from the US. It looks like we are all in for an awesome time.
But most importantly, at the back of the raft we have our guide and captain for today, which is Jesse, and he's the one making sure we stay in the raft. At the beginning of the trip, there's a few small rapids for us to tackle, but this is the perfect opportunity for us to learn some paddle commands. Jesse's at the back of the raft and he is shouting all the different commands that we need to do throughout the trip. And you need to be super proactive when you are whitewater rafting. It's definitely a team sport and not something you just lazy around, but that is all part of the fun. However, it doesn't take us long to get really into the thick of the rapids. Most of the rapids are grade 3 and there's over 50 rapids throughout this whole trip. And really not that much time to relax. It's pretty full on and you definitely don't feel shortchanged after this trip.
There is heaps of rapids on the Tongariro River, and one of the great things about whitewater rafting with the guide is that we get prepared before each and every single one of them. Jesse tells us how we're going to approach them, and he is also telling us a little bit about each rapids. They all have a different name and they are all very colorful names like the Cheese Grater, Air New Zealand, Pinball and many more. And this is really why I like whitewater rafting so much. It is so much fun and it's a great way to get up close and intimate with New Zealand wildlife. All those rivers are usually undiscovered if you were not whitewater rafting on them. You really have to take one of the tracks which is only known by the locals when they go trout fishing, for instance, and there only you're gonna see just one really small spot of the river. But when doing whitewater rafting on such a famous river than the Tongariro River, well, basically you get to see most of the river really up close. It's so cool. Plus, whitewater rafting is a great way to keep cool in summer.
This section of the Tongariro River is the grade 3 section, meaning that the rapids are at an intermediate level. They're not too gnarly, they're not too easy, they're, just right. Commercial rafting in New Zealand goes from grade 1 being the easiest to grade 5 being the hardest. So on the Tongariro River, this is a really good option if you are new to rafting or you just don't want to hit those absolutely crazy rapids, but still have a lot of that fun factor. On top of all that, it makes this whitewater rafting trip a lot more accessible. You can even take kids on this rafting trip. The further down the river we go, Jesse is introducing some more paddle commands, one notably being get down, and when he says this, you know something gnarly is about to happen. You basically need to hold onto your paddle, get right into the bottom of the boat and hold on.
Because the water level of the Tongariro River is controlled by dam, you will find that from time to time you may get a very different experience. For example, we are actually whitewater rafting on a really high flow day today. It actually has 30 more cubic meters of water today just because the dam has been released not so long ago. So as I mentioned previously, it's a pretty full-on trip right here. We don't have that much time to stop and catch our breath, but Jesse makes sure that we actually have some time to rest a little bit. And we stop in an eddy, which is the part of the river where the water is kind of standstill and not pushing us back down on the river. Once we stop there, we actually grab a hot drinks and even some snacks. There is always some chocolate on whitewater rafting trips. Plus, Jessie also takes the time to tell us a little bit more about the local Maori legends. But back to the action, the Tongariro River is absolutely restless. There is one rapid after the other. It's quite rare that we actually have a little bit of calm, and it's really cool. That's really the kind of trip that I do like, when it's full action-packed, and at the end of the trip I just feel exhausted. I want to paddle all the way down this river.
This part of the Tongariro River has a real mix of awesome landscapes, and my favourite being when we get really deep inside this gorge, which is covered with moss all over the gorge walls and topped with so many trees. It feels like the true wilderness. And speaking of wilderness, we actually see some pretty rare sights on this trip. Although we didn't get to film it because it's pretty hard to film wildlife while you're rafting, we actually see some blue ducks super up close. And blue ducks are really rare in New Zealand. They're rarer than kiwi birds, and they're pretty fun to look at. They are literally blue ducks, and they even have little lips on the end of their beaks. If you ever get a chance to see one, it's pretty amazing. But blue duck spotting and whitewater rafting is not the only thing that the Tongariro River is for. If you're ever going into Turangi, you'll see a huge sign saying it's the trout fishing capital of New Zealand, and that is exactly what this river is most famous for. It is a fantastic place to go trout fishing, so if you're into that, that's what you can do.
As we are coming close to the end of our trip, we reflect on how amazing it was, and I take the time to jump in the water because you know that I love that. By the way, the water was about 8 degrees today, but the equipment that we were provided was so good, I did not feel the cold at all. So we all gathered together around the raft at the end of the trip and helped Jessie carry the raft back toward the van. It's a last good teamwork because honestly that raft is not light.
How do you feel? How do you feel?
That was so awesome, man.
And the drive back toward the Turangi base of Rafting New Zealand is only about 10 minutes, and as we arrive we are greeted to beer, hot dogs and the awesome pictures of our trip. I really do love that, and our entire team gathered on the couch to watch our crazy faces.
Today we are hitting one of the most exciting grade free? God, that was awful pronunciation.